Witnessing fighters' downfall in a game where people trade brain cells for glory is always heartbreaking, and the exponential rise and fall of Darren Till is the classic example of how unforgivable this sport actually is. It was such an unexpected downfall that many fans are still scratching their heads, asking what the hell happened to him. When Darren Till signed with the UFC in 2015, he was expected to be the next big thing coming out of the UK, and right from the start, the UFC media machinery started promoting him as one of the most promising, undefeated prospects, with Till himself giving them a ton of material to work with. He was charming, outspoken, and confident in front of the camera, which went well with his hooligan-type personality. In some way, he was the total promotional package. He had top-level striking skills, decent grappling defense, the persona to sell a fight and become a star, and was an Englishman, which was very important to the UFC from a business perspective because at the time, the UK market needed a new representative. Michael Bisping, who carried the entire market for years, was slowly approaching the closing stages of his career, and the company was in search for a new name, with Till being the perfect fit. The Englishman set off his UFC journey with 4 dominant wins against unranked fighters, and he didn't hesitate of getting the most out of every second of media space to promote himself and talk his way up the roster. As a result, the UFC decided to fast track him and put him in the main event spot against the veteran Donald Cerrone, the toughest test Till passed with ease. After proving the hype was real, Till got his chance to headline the title elimination fight in his hometown Liverpool against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at UFC Fight Night 130, which he won by leading the dance on the feet from start to finish. And unfortunately, this is all we have seen from Till, as he went on to score only 1 win in his next 6 UFC fights, which caught the entire MMA world by surprise. The hype around Till was at an all-time high after the Thompson win, and just 4 months later, the UFC booked him in for a title fight against Tyron Woodley at UFC 228 in 2018, too soon according to many experts. This proved to be right, as Woodley went on to finish Till within the first round without much resistance. This premature decision to throw Till right into the fire marks the first factor that contributed to his downfall. Instead of taking a layoff and getting back to the drawing board, Till wanted to bounce back quickly, this time against Masvidal, who to be fair, was considered a gatekeeper at the time. But the London crowd was in for a massive shock as the King of Miami pulled off one of the best combos in history to knock Till out cold at UFC Fight Night 147, and he was never the same fighter upon waking up, both mentally and physically. Just a few weeks later in Tenerife, he would trash a hotel while drunk, steal a taxi, and get arrested, which shows the mental state he was in at the time. Till always struggled to hit the scale at 170 pounds. Although all fighters go through the process of losing a lot of weight, Till and the scenes of him bringing himself to the brink of death during the cuts became synonymous with how terrible and dangerous this practice really is. These cuts were so brutal that he decided to move up in weight class after the Masvidal loss to try his luck in the middleweight division, where he did not enjoy the same physical advantage. The thing is, Till is one of those fighters whose body frame is too big for welterweight, but too small for middleweight, so he basically got stuck with nowhere to go. Despite all the skepticism, he made a successful middleweight debut in 2019 with a narrow split decision over Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 244, who to be fair, is not a proper middleweight in terms of physical size and strength. The same could be said for his next opponent, the #1 contender Robert Whittaker, against whom Till put in a solid performance despite dropping a decision. Although these 2 performances gave us a perception that Till could go toe-to-toe with the best middleweights, it was quite obvious that his overall game got exposed. As one of the best strikers in the UFC, Till always banked on his long reach, power, exceptional timing, feeling for distance, speed, and the ability to destroy his opponents with laser-perfect accuracy, with most of his attacks coming from the left side. But once he moved to the middleweight division, he could no longer enjoy the same advantages. Putting on more weight had a negative impact on his speed and footwork, and he was gassing out pretty quickly, which was unusual for him. The significant reach advantage wasn't there, nor was the power, and he could no longer rely on applying the same strategies and fighting style. Toward the very end of his UFC journey, he tried to make changes and adapt, but it all resulted in failure. Throughout his entire career, Till was progressing to the higher levels of the UFC much faster than in the gym as a fighter, and this is notably true when it comes to his underwhelming wrestling, which ultimately cost him a career in the end. Despite being 1-3 in his last 4 fights, Till got a chance to headline the UFC Vegas 36 event against one of the best wrestlers in the division, Derek Brunson. Till realised this was his last chance to stay relevant in the division, and he took preparation seriously by moving his camp to Sweden to train alongside Khamzat Chimaev and other great grapplers at the All-Star Gym. Till came into this fight injured and in terrible form, which was quite obvious early on. Hundreds of hours wrestling with Chimaev resulted in Till spending the majority of the fight on his back, until Brunson finally submitted him in the 3rd round. And during the post-fight media work, you could see he was beyond devastated. However, he continued to train at All-Star and was in for one last ride, this time against the up-and-coming talent Du Plessis, where it became obvious that Till cannot handle the physicality of the middleweights. Despite the fact that the majority of Du Plessis' wrestling attacks were sloppy and telegraphed, Till failed to address the fundamental aspects of wrestling defense such as wrist control, and he simply couldn't get his striking going either. It all resulted in him being submitted once again in the 3rd round. At 30 years of age, and still in his athletic prime, Till decided to part ways with the UFC in 2022 to pursue new challenges. This all but leaves the question, have we seen the last of Darren Till at top level martial arts? Let us know your take in the comments below.